I'm Parni Jaggi. After we have understood the plot of the drama or a literary work, we need to know the important element of the plot, which is the climax. Now, we've often heard this word climax because it's a common word for the moviegoers also. In every movie or in every drama, we have a climax. Let's understand climax from a literary point of view. Climax is a Greek term meaning ladder. It is that particular point in a narrative at which a conflict or tension hits the highest point. Now, why is the conflict needed? Why is the tension needed? Because any drama or literary work is based on juxtaposition, conflicting two opposite conflicting realities of life. They may be negative, positive, protagonist, antagonist. So, climax leads the reader or to the movie watcher to that point in which that conflict is at the highest point. It is a structural part of a plot and also is called as a crisis point. It is a decisive movement or a turning point in a storyline at which the rising action actually turns into a falling action. This is the peak of that rising action, whereafter it transforms itself into a falling action. So it can also be called as the peak. Now, as a stylistic device, the term climax refers to a literary device in which words, phrases, and clauses are arranged in an order to increase their importance within the sentence. Now, we may not understand this because when we watch a movie, it is very easy to judge or to understand that yes, this scene is the climax or this dialogue is the climax. But when we read a text, a literary text, climax can be in the form of words, phrases, a part of the plot, an event, anything which reaches the peak of the conflict. That peak of the conflict then leads to a resolution or denouement that we will talk about in the next lecture. So this may lead to something which we have not known earlier or which was a cause of our suspicion. So this may be in some form of language. Now when we look at the examples of climax, we see that again with my taste of William Shakespeare, we see that this sonnet, The Passionate Pilgrim, he in just a clause, in just a couple of words, he builds a climax. Let's see how he does it. In the sonnet he says, "Beauty is but a vain and doubtful good, a shining gloss that fadeth suddenly, a flower that dies when first it gives to bud, a brittle glass that's broken presently, a doubtful good, a gloss, a glass, a flower, lost, faded, broken, dead within an hour." Now this phrase "dead within an hour" is placed at the very end, and it marks the climax of the fate of beauty, which he introduces as vain and doubtful good. Now in a poem also we could have a climax in this way, that he is building up on the concept of beauty, but in the last four words he comes to the peak of that the ultimate result of beauty is also that it will be dead within an hour. Then here I also have a prose piece by Martin Luther King. I have a dream speech in which he says, "This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Now this particular line from Martin Luther King's famous speech, "I Have a Dream," actually qualifies as the climax of the speech. The entire speech is about the human rights, about how we should behave, how we should morally be in the society. But in this one line, he criticizes and rejects the racial discrimination suffered by black Americans at the hands of white Americans, and he builds up the climax in just one line to say that this is all what I wanted to say. So we see the function of the climax. Now, I used very simple examples. Otherwise, in drama, you have certain complex examples also. In dramas of William Shakespeare, for example, in Romeo and Juliet again, we have the story reaching its climax in somewhere in Act 3, where there is a duel or a challenge. Even in the tragedies of Shakespeare, like Hamlet, we have those fights, those sword duels between Hamlet and Claudius and all those characters, in which finally then they all die. So we have different kinds of climactic scenes in literature, in drama more particularly. But when we are concerned with the function of climax, what function it plays is actually more important. When it is used as a plot device, it helps the readers to understand the significance of the previously action that was rising to a point in the plot where this conflict had reached its peak. We know that in a literary writing there is a conflict which is prevalent. Whether it is a story or a one-act play or a drama, there is a conflict, there is a parallelism, there is a juxtaposition of two opposite forces which are playing with each other. And climax is the point where they reach the conflict, where they reach the peak of their conflict. So, what does the climax do? It makes the readers mentally prepared for the resolution of that conflict. So it is important for the plot structure of the story. Now, secondly, it is also used as a stylistic device or as a figure of speech to give a balance to the writing, to give a brevity to the writing, to make it more balanced, more lucid, more precise. Being pre-employed, it qualifies itself as a powerful tool that can instantly capture the undivided attention of listeners and readers alike. So its importance cannot be underestimated. Even while we watch movies, we know that we have to hold our hearts, we have to hold and control our thrill till we reach the climax point. And after we reach the climax, we feel relieved that, okay, this was the peak of all tension, all stress, all thrill. Now we are relieved. So here is why climax is important in literature, especially in drama. So we will be talking about the other elements of drama and other literary terms in the coming videos. Stay tuned. Thank you for now.